gonna laugh at you. I'll laugh at you. He made them sound like this.
Let me see whether the plug is on. The plug is here.
So you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question for you about the definition of seclusions, what the definition is, and then what the expectations as parents, what we can expect from the school if then another incident report would be produced, or if that applies only to the restraints.
Good question. I'm finding with schools and my clients that there's a little bit of a confusion about when actually it is considered a seclusion.
Okay.
And the actual definition that I have from my handy dandy notebook is seclusion is the involuntary confinement of a student alone in a room or clearly defined area from which the student is physically prevented from leaving. And unfortunately, some of the school policies have an additional line to it that says, with no other person in the room. So it's not supposed to be that way, because really the intention is if a student is in a room or in an area that they believe they cannot leave, so they're involuntarily in that room, that is considered seclusion, and there should be an incident report for this.
Each time that occurs?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But you're going to have to probably have a conversation with your school about if they consider it seclusion or not. And then you're going to have to kind of dig into that and say, are you sure that that isn't seclusion? Because that's been the case for me, that they're not calling it seclusion when it should have been called seclusion.
Yeah.
And I'm also having a problem, which this might apply to you, is that they're really calling it a timeout. Okay, and then when they're calling it a timeout, it's not seclusion, and they're kind of but the bottom line, the real concern is, okay, if it's seclusion or if it's not seclusion, is how much time your child is away from their education.
Yeah.
Okay, because yes, seclusion is important, but when we start to confuse it with is it timeout or seclusion, you really want to start looking at how much time they're losing out.
Yeah.
Because then that's really the big, because now you don't have access to your education, and it's starting to add up. And do you know that they can almost call, if a student is in timeout in a pattern, you can call that a suspension, because it amounts to that.
Oh, wow.
Because it's a lot of time that you're missing out because you're in trouble.
Okay.
You have to go to this timeout. And it is complicated. Is it seclusion? Is it timeout? And that's really a conversation to have with your IEP team.
Okay. Yeah, and I think in my experience, we have focused on so much of the restraint incidents that occurred last year that really sort of digging into the seclusion side of things, I have neglected to do as a parent. I haven't really known what exactly that meant. I haven't really, dug into that. I've definitely never received any kind of report. So that would indicate that it's not occurring. And yet, I don't know. I would have to look into that a little bit further.
Well, they're not required to give you an incident report for a timeout.
Right.
Okay, but you can have a communication set up with your school that they let you know whenever your child's in timeout. Could you please send home, I don't know if you get daily communication or weekly communication, your child spent this much time in a timeout or this many times. So there's a pattern starting, and that's a concern, because they shouldn't rely on timeout too much.
Right.
It's okay. Of course, all of us use timeout for our kids, teachers, parents, but when it becomes habitual, it's a pattern. They're not really figuring out how to stop using timeout. And it's really tricky, because sometimes it is seclusion, and they should be documenting it.